Space is dark, infinite, and shrouded in mystery. It's a cosmic void filled with stars, distant moons, and potential life. For decades, science fiction films had treated space as this fantastical and heroic atmosphere, focusing on its limitless potential and spectacle. Films like Star Wars and Star Trek depicted the void as a boundless, almost mythical frontier that was begging to be explored. It was a place where heroes were born and given the chance to rise above tyranny, fear, and oppression. It was much more operatic and optimistic. But in 1979, everything changed with the release of Ridley Scott's Alien, a film that weaponized the unknown vastness of space, turning the once limitless vacuum into an atmosphere laced in dread and death. Instead of glorifying its characters, it showed just how insignificant they were when confronted by the unknown. It gave the future a new look, one that was bleak and cold. It transformed space into something truly terrifying. Ever since the film's initial release, the franchise has spawned countless sequels, games, and books. Albeit, not all of them were good, but it still became the cornerstone of sci-fi horror. And in 2014, Creative Assembly released a brand new entry into the universe, one that still lives on in infamy: Alien Isolation.
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
Alien Isolation is one of the most iconic horror games to release in the last 12 years, and it's the first Alien game to truly embody the fear of the original film. It brought a level of intensity and terror that made us feel helpless, endangered, and alone. The story of Alien Isolation takes place in the year 2137, which is 15 years after the first movie. And in order to understand certain characters and their motives, we must first take a trip back to 1979. Where it all began. In the original film, the crew of a commercial star freighter known as the Nostromo are abruptly awakened from their stasis after detecting an unknown transmission from a nearby moon. Upon landing, 3 crew members venture out on foot to locate the source of the signal, and they quickly realize that what they found was not a distress signal. No, it was a warning. Dallas, Kane, and Lambert have found themselves stepping into a derelict alien spacecraft, and it's here where everything goes wrong. While searching through the ship, they come across a chamber filled with eggs, each containing unidentified life, sitting still, completely undisturbed. That is, until one of them opens, releasing a creature that latches onto Kane's face. In order to get him the help he needs, they must break quarantine. And after some time, the creature known as the Facehugger shrivels up and dies, leaving Kane completely fine, or so they think. While eating dinner in preparation to go back into cryosleep, Kane begins to convulse violently at the table, causing the crew to panic and pin him down. But there's nothing they can do, because the creature has already decided on its host. An alien bursts out of his chest cavity and scurries out of the room, and over time it begins to grow into something truly horrific. From this point on, the Nostromo has been transformed into a death trap, the perfect hunting ground for a predator. Its hallways and sprawling ventilation shafts offer no safety to the horrors of the Xenomorph. In fact, it's practically a playground for the creature. It hunts down the crew members one by one, and is nearly unstoppable. There's no guaranteed survivor, no. Every single character in the film feels expendable, and it's this uncertainty that makes the film feel that much more tense. And it's not until everyone else on the ship dies that Ellen Ripley emerges as the film's protagonist, not as a hero, but as a survivor. Alone and completely petrified by fear, she manages to blow up the Nostromo and eject the Xenomorph out into space. And before going back into cryosleep, she records one final message, the final goodbye from the Nostromo.
Lambert, Parker, Brett, Ash, and Captain Dallas are dead. Cargo and ship destroyed. This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
The message that Ripley records at the end of the film is the driving force behind the story of Alien Isolation. Like I said before, Isolation takes place 15 years after the events of the original, and it follows Amanda Ripley, Ellen's daughter, as she desperately seeks closure for her mother's disappearance. Amanda is now working for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, and as soon as the game begins, she is approached by a synthetic named Samuels, who informs her that a ship known as the Anisadora managed to find and recover the flight logs for the Nostromo. These logs are currently being held on Sevastopol Station, a supply depot orbiting the gas giant KG-348. Since these logs are of great interest to the company, Weyland is sending a small team to retrieve it, and it just so happens that Amanda has been invited to accompany them to the station. After receiving the case files, Samuels wanted to use this mission as an opportunity to give Amanda some closure. After all these years, she's still looking for her mother, and this is her one chance to find out the truth.
I know why you're working in the region where she went missing. You're still looking, aren't you? I've been cleared to offer you a place on the Torrens if you want to come along. Maybe there'll be some closure for you.
When Amanda wakes up from her cryosleep, she finds herself aboard the Torrens, an M-class star freighter being used to transport them to the station. Walking through the hallways for the first time truly feels like we are in an alien film. The Torrens and Sevastopol feel like they belong within the universe. The lighting is warm yet sterile. There's a static hum within each room, the constant beeping of computers. From the get-go, we are immersed in this environment. One thing I absolutely love about the Alien franchise is its aesthetic. The retrofuturism within its design makes for such a compelling and interesting environment. It uses dated technology, which makes space travel feel much more grounded and gritty. The technology used is both advanced and frozen in time. It's distinctly utilitarian. The ship is decorated with bulky keyboards, boxy terminals, fuzzy CRT screens, and old recording tapes. It feels lived in and practical. It's not fancy or shiny, no, and that's honestly what makes it so unsettling. When Amanda makes it to the bridge, she and the crew discover that Sevastopol Station has suffered some damage to their dry dock bay, and when they try to make contact, they are met with jumbled and broken comms.
This is the commercial vessel Torrens out of St. Clair, registration number MSV7760, calling Sevastopol Traffic Control. We're carrying 3 passengers on a Weyland-Yutani bond. You're holding the Nostromo flight recorder unit. We request immediate permission to transfer the passengers portside over.
This Waits, Colonial Marshal, Sevastopol State, serious situation.
Hello, Marshal? Marshal, this is the Torrens. Say again?
The only way to enter the station is to go on a spacewalk. Amanda, the engineer, Samuels, the synthetic, and Taylor, the lawyer, all suit up and prepare to board. But they don't get far, because as soon as they begin their trip, an explosion knocks them off course, cutting their tether, splitting them up, and hurling them towards the station.
Taylor Ripley, hold on!
Samuels! Taylor! Respond! Anybody! Okay.
Amanda has no other choice but to seal herself into the airlock. She is now completely alone and unable to contact the rest of her team. From the moment she steps foot in Sevastopol Station, there is immediately something off. The place has been deserted. It feels as though we are walking through a graveyard. Fires rage. death lurks around every bend, and the ones who did survive have completely lost their way. Groups of terrified and paranoid looters roam the halls and are violent to any outsider they see. The station is in complete disarray, a hollow shell of what it once was. And getting back to the Torrens is not an option. Amanda's only way out is to keep moving, and just like her mother, she must survive. Motivated by finding out the truth, Amanda slowly makes her way through the station, and it's not long before she encounters another survivor, a man named Axel.
Stay still.
Okay.
Now turn around. Come on!
I'm Ripley.
Where'd you come from? Ripley?
Axel tells Ripley that there is a killer loose on the station, stalking and slaughtering anyone that moves. Ripley has no chance to process what he's saying, and it seems like she just writes it off as paranoia. So in exchange for Axel's help, Ripley offers him a place on the Torrens. But getting off this station is a pipe dream, because that killer Axel was so scared of finally reveals itself.
You saved my life. This is about survival. Do you understand? You hear something? I hear something.
Axel?
Ripley watches as Axel is violently dragged through the vent, leaving behind a dark trail of blood. This is the first moment of true terror within the game. The opening few hours of Alien Isolation is a masterclass in horror atmosphere. It feels like there's one bullet in a revolver. We know it's coming, we just don't know when. We hear the Xenomorph in the vents, the music growing louder, Ripley's heart beating faster and faster, but then it all goes silent. The amount of dread within this game is insane. Isolation is drenched in crippling anticipation, and it makes for such a draining experience. Before Axel's death, he served as an initial guide to surviving the horrors of the station. The gameplay within Isolation starts and ends with stealth, nothing else. Throughout the game, you were given tools and weapons, but nothing is as effective as going completely unseen. Sound is both your ally and your enemy. It can save you, but it can also get you killed. Completely stricken with fear, Amanda continues to move quietly through the station, avoiding any human at all costs. She eventually gets her hands on a revolver, which is complete dogshit, and then the Nostromo's flight recorder, which is completely empty. What are the odds?
No! God damn it!
Amanda is plagued by inconvenience after inconvenience, because soon after finding the empty flight log, a security lockdown initiates, which blares an alarm throughout the entire area and prevents her from leaving the room. But it's here where we find the security access tuner, which is one of the most useful devices throughout the entire game. It allows us to hack terminals, doors, and anything else that needs to be, well, hacked. When she finally manages to shut down the security alarms, the one thing she's been praying not to see shows its face. The Xenomorph is genuinely scary as shit in this game, and for now, it remains relatively scripted. The only way to really get caught by it is if you're banging pots and pans and shit. You gotta be super fucking loud, or not pay attention and run right underneath a vent, which I did. multiple times. After narrowly escaping the Xenomorph, the creature directs its attention towards the humans who once hunted us, savagely murdering them and then retreating back into the vents. After this close encounter, Amanda's main objective is to re-establish comms with Samuels and Taylor. And to do that, she has to make her way to the communication center, which has now been completely taken over by the Working Joes, who are Seegson synthetics working aboard Sevastopol. The Working Joes are incredibly simple in design. They lack the realism of the Weyland-Yutani models. Instead, they have these blank and rubberized faces that are extremely uncanny. Their glowing beady eyes are completely soulless, lacking any sort of emotion. They were created to be more trustworthy than the human-like synthetics. Or, that's at least how they were advertised. At first, they simply just roam around the area, but it's not long until Ripley bears witness to their true intentions.
Oh my god.
The Working Joes are there to make sure that Sevastopol stays in the dark. No communications are allowed in or out. And in order for Ripley to contact Samuels, she has to once again move around silently and slowly to avoid detection. Before the Working Joe bashed the guy's head in, Ripley found a modified motion tracker, and this tool is her best friend throughout the entire game. It tells her how far an enemy is from where she's standing, and it beeps whenever motion is detected within a certain radius. Although this tool is incredibly useful, it needs to be used in moderation, because the longer Ripley holds it out, the more noise it makes, which can draw enemies directly to her. Later in the game, there are a few weapons that can be used to stun or take down the synthetics. The stun baton electrocutes them, causing them to short circuit and gargle up a white liquid. Pause. Or you could opt for the shotgun, which takes about 1 to 2 shots to the dome to put them down. There's also the bolt gun, which is just a monster. The only good Working Joe is a dead one. Ripley manages to hack the central terminal and talk to Samuels, and it's here where she warns him about the deadly synthetics and the creature roaming the station.
Okay. Samuels, listen to me. It's not safe here. Seegson's got this place locked tight. Their goddamn androids are killing people.
That's impossible. It's contrary to primary synthetic programming.
I've seen it, Samuels. I guess Seegson's got a different idea about synthetics. And there's something else here. A creature. It's big and it's lethal.
Ripley, slow down. A creature.
It's a life form. An unknown type. Some kind of alien organism. It's extremely dangerous. You and Taylor need to
Ripley,
make...
Taylor is hurt. She was injured by debris during the crossing.
How bad?
I can't move her. I need medical supplies. We need to treat and pack the
And
injury.
the Torrens?
The radio is broken. I can't contact Verlaine. We're on our own.
Shit. Okay. I'll come to you. Keep your eyes open.
I'll send a transit car to you.
After the call ends, Ripley takes a transit to medical and meets up with both Samuels and Taylor. Taylor is unable to move because of her injury, and it's up to Ripley to find a trauma kit to treat her wounds. But unbeknownst to her, what she's already experienced is only the beginning of a nightmare, because what follows completely rocks her to the core. Mission 5, the Quarantine, is when the game truly begins, and it's one of the best missions in the entire story. Upon arriving at medical, Ripley meets a man named Dr. Coleman, who is also in need of medical supplies.
I need your help and you need mine. You find the passcode for the service elevator and then I'll come down to the hospital with you, okay?
Passcode?
Yeah. I can direct you from here. Morley or Lingard would have had the new passcode. Morley's office is your best bet.
This entire section is filled with an eerie tension. It's strangely silent apart from the guidance of Coleman's voice. White noise echoes through the halls. It's essentially the calm before the storm. The original Alien thrives off of its use of diegetic sound to create a claustrophobic and oppressive atmosphere. And this is something Creative Assembly really took note of. Not only is Alien Isolation one of the scariest games to play, it's also one of the most chilling to listen to. Sometimes the scariest moments are the quietest ones. The ones where all you can hear is Ripley's shaking breath and trembling voice. There's no comfort in anyone or anything. It's a constant dread that never goes away. That silence is shattered by the sound of the quarantine alarm. Something has found its way in.
Medical facility quarantine breach detected. Warning.
Relax.
Medical
I'm
facility
just trying to find out
breach
what that is.
detected.
You focus on finding that keycard.
Shit.
The alarm continues to ring as the red light fills each corridor. It's a warning of what's to come. The creature has finally been let loose, and all it wants to do is hunt. The Xenomorph itself is one of the most iconic monsters in cinematic history. Its terrifying and masterful design was the brainchild of H.R. Giger, a prolific sculptor and artist known for his surreal and biomechanical style, which blended both organic matter with industrial machinery. All of his creations are beautiful in the most horrific way possible. The design of the Xenomorph is incredibly primal, yet complex. The anatomy of the creature is strange, but meticulously handcrafted. It stands at a whopping 7 feet tall, and its most notable feature is its elongated skull and its chrome teeth. The Xenomorph actually has a second inner jaw that shoots out of its mouth. This move is known as the attack tongue, capable of penetrating through a human skull in an instant. Along with its deadly mouth, it has a razor-sharp tail that increases its attack range and versatility. The Xenomorph is also capable of impaling and picking up its victim, bringing them in close to finish them off. The creature is quite literally a living and breathing weapon, born from death. The alien has a multi-stage life cycle, which begins with an egg and a facehugger. Once the egg opens up, the facehugger will latch on to a nearby lifeform and implant an embryo into the host's chest cavity. This then morphs into an infant xenomorph known as the chestburster. It gets that name because, well, it bursts out of the chest. The infant then rapidly evolves into an adult xenomorph, shedding its skin and becoming the monster we know it to be. Now that the Xenomorph is free from the shackles of the script, the gameplay becomes significantly more intense. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't completely petrified when I first saw it slither out of the vent. The revolver has finally fired. Everything we've been dreading has come true. The Xenomorph stalks us into every room and around every corner. It crawls in the vents and pinpoints our exact location. There's no use in running, because the Xenomorph will always be faster, deadlier, and more vicious than us. All it takes is one wrong move or one loud footstep, and we're dead. This forces us to adapt on the fly to any given scenario and use all of the tools at our disposal to get it the hell away from us. Items like the flare and the noisemaker are perfect for getting the Xenomorph into another room, whereas the Molotov is used as a weapon. The fire causes it to run away with its tail between its legs. But these tools don't last forever, and the only way to truly survive is to keep moving no matter what. The longer you hide, the more likely the alien will find you. The Xenomorph is incredibly intelligent, and that's due to its AI. The AI in this game has been praised time and time again for how groundbreaking and innovative it is. In fact, it's so good to the point where it genuinely feels like we are being hunted, and it's kind of terrifying, not gonna lie. The way the alien works is actually very interesting. So there are two behavior management systems within the game: the Director AI and the Alien AI. The Director knows exactly where we are the entire time, and it feeds information about our whereabouts to the alien itself. But it doesn't say our exact location. No, the Xenomorph has to use the hints provided to find us. The Director also influences the alien's behavior, causing it to roam around or pace back and forth within certain rooms. It's essentially actively searching for where we could be. If you decide to hide in the same locker more than once, well, I've got news for you. The Xenomorph knows exactly where you are. The Director also works with a system known as the menace gauge, which is pretty much a way to determine the amount of pressure the alien puts on a player at any given point. The director will periodically tell the alien when to go to a specific room or area, and the menace gauge will increase based on the threat level and tension within the encounter. If the player survives after the alien reaches its peak menace level, then the Xenomorph will either retreat back into the vents or flee to a nearby room. Alien Isolation has a much more sophisticated stalker design when compared to games like Outlast, which has specific patrol patterns within its variants, making these enemies significantly easier to move around and manipulate. The AI in this game can be equated to a large-scale hide-and-seek match, where someone has eyes in the sky, giving the seeker hints on where to look. It's technically not really cheating, but it is unfair. And that's the name of the game. Alien Isolation is meant to be a brutal stealth game. If this were real life, the Xenomorph is the one with the advantage, not Ripley. But that doesn't mean she can't come out on top. After 2 grueling missions, Ripley manages to find the medical supplies she needs. But just as she reaches the exit, the Xenomorph cuts her off and backs her up against the wall. When Ripley wakes up, she finds herself in a raging fire. And when she escapes, she later meets the man who set the trap, Marshall Waits. The Marshal has been trying to kill the Xenomorph ever since it made its way onto the station. He's been setting explosive traps with the hopes of decimating the alien, but so far, he's been out of luck. When Amanda meets up with the Marshal, she is also reunited with Samuels and Taylor, as well as the deputy, Ricardo. After re-establishing the transit systems, Ripley makes it to the office of the Colonel Marshals, and it's here where she talks to Marlowe, the captain of the Anisadora, the very ship that discovered the Nostromo's flight recorder, and the one responsible for the station's collapse. When the Anisadora recovered the flight recorder, they decided to dig deeper. The crew wanted to locate the Nostromo itself and salvage whatever they could out of the wreck. Using the flight data from the box, they were led to LV-426, the same moon that brought ruin to the Nostromo. The crew of the Anisadora saw this as their big break, the ultimate payday. Traveling deeper led them to the same derelict alien spacecraft seen in the first film. Marlowe, being the greedy bastard he is, claims that the ship is now their property, and he makes sure to deactivate the distress beacon so that no one else can find the derelict. But ultimately, their own greed is their downfall. Because as soon as Marlowe deactivates the beacon, the rest of the crew discover a chamber filled with eggs. And just like the film, a facehugger finds its host. For 15 years, those eggs had remained undisturbed, silently waiting for their next victim. And that victim just so happened to be Marlowe's wife, Catherine Foster. Since his own wife was attacked, he desperately looked for any way to get her help, and became violent when told otherwise. He even got into a physical altercation with the other 2 crew members after breaking quarantine. And once the facehugger died, Marlowe immediately put her in the cryosleep and set a course for Sevastopol Station. Upon arriving, the head of Seegson Security, Jake Sinclair, allowed them on board with no prior inspections. And it's this very decision that marked the beginning of the end. Soon after boarding, Foster was taken to medical, where she was almost immediately killed by a chest burster, which kickstarted the outbreak.
This is Lingard, Senior Medical Officer at Sevastopol Station. I want to state for the record, I have been placed under duress with regards to my patient 0. And Ransom, Seegson's head of operations, he made certain threats for my career and my certification. I want that on record. God, hold me. That woman needed help. I didn't know what type of parasite she had encountered, but it had planted something inside her. I am so sorry. I had no way of knowing what would happen.
Because of his reckless decision to bring his wife on board the station, the Marshal locked Marlowe in a cell for interrogation. And after he tells Ripley his story, the main objective shifts. The Marshal is sick and tired of playing defense. He has a plan to hunt down and kill the Xenomorph for good. At this point in the game, Ripley is given a flamethrower, which, along with the Molotov, is the most effective way to scare off the Xenomorph. But the more you rely on fire, the less fearful it becomes. The AI adapts to your playstyle, and it makes it harder to keep it away, which is, not good. So you want to kind of use it sparingly, and only when you really need it. Ripley is given all this gear mainly because Marshall plans to use her as bait to trap and corner the Xenomorph. His plan A pretty much involves Ripley running around and locking up certain sectors of the station, in an effort to back the Xenomorph against the wall. But when that fails, it forces the Marshal to move to the more unhinged plan B, which involves launching the Xenomorph out into space. With Ripley still acting as bait, she lures the alien into a sector of the station that can be jettisoned. But before she can leave, the Marshal locks her in with the Xenomorph to ensure that the creature can't escape. He's no longer taking any chances. In a desperate attempt to survive, Ripley has to not only fend off the Xenomorph, but also make it to the airlock. And when she finally puts on the EVA suit, she is sent flying into space, as the lab crashes down into the gas giants below, finally putting an end to the Xenomorph. After managing to make her way back to Sevastopol, Ripley finds herself exactly where she started, stuck in an endless hell with no escape. But now that the Xenomorph is dead and gone, Ripley directs her anger towards the Marshal, who left her to die.
Can anyone hear me?
Ripley, is that you?
Yes, wait. Me, you son of a bitch. You locked me in. You blew the lab into space!
I had no choice. No choice at all. You saw that thing. You saw what it could do. I had to get it off the station. By any means necessary.
Yeah. Use me as bait. Leave me to die.
And it goddamn worked, Ripley. It goddamn worked. I got that thing. Jettisoned it into the gas giant. The station's safe.
Although the Xenomorph is off the station, that doesn't mean everyone is safe. No. Because when one threat is removed, another rises. The moment Ripley begins her trek to the Marshal's office, everything begins to spiral. The working Joes have gone rogue. The synthetics begin to slaughter everyone on board, showing absolutely no mercy to anyone they see. They are quite literally seeing red and stained with human blood. For now, no one on board knows what's going on, and soon there won't be anyone left to fix it. And that's exactly what the synthetics want. Upon arriving at the office, Ripley finds herself stepping into a graveyard of bloodied corpses. Among the bodies is Marshal Waits, his lifeless corpse still warm from the attack. Samuels, Taylor, and Marlowe are nowhere to be seen, but Ricardo is alive and in complete shock. He sits still in the lobby, surrounded by death. Ripley, being the survivor she is, plans to stop whatever is going on, and her mind immediately goes to Samuels. Before the attack, Samuels was sent to Apollo, which is the AI controlling the working Joes. Ripley manages to find him in Seegson Synthetics, which has been completely torn apart. Mutilated androids litter the ground, and the ones that are still operational are, of course, hostile. When we finally lay eyes on Samuels, we overhear him talking to a working Joe and asking for access to Apollo. But when the Joe gets hostile, so does Samuels.
I don't have time for this.
After giving that Joe a beatdown like no other, Samuels attempts to override the hazard containment operation, which takes every ounce of his strength to do so. But even though the Xenomorph is no longer on the station, the AI won't shut down its protocol. Instead, it begins to reject Samuels and prevent him from interfacing. And with his guidance, Ripley begins to try and shut down the system in an effort to save him. But even though she manages to disconnect him, his body suffered too much damage, causing him to slump to the ground. In his last heroic act, he opened the way to Apollo's control core, so that Ripley can access the systems for herself. At the end of the day, Samuels truly wanted Ripley to find closure.
I wanted Amanda Ripley to have closure.
This is the moment in the story that Ripley begins to realize that there's much more at play than just an alien outbreak. In the alien universe, there are many companies and corporations in control of pretty much everything. The most dominant of these companies is Weyland-Yutani, the very company Amanda and her mother work for. Or used to work for. I'm not sure if Ellen got a 15-year paid vacation or not. I could be wrong. But Weyland has an obsession with evolution and power. And when Ripley finally makes it to the Apollo core, she discovers that Weyland bought Sevastopol from Seegson just 2 days after her and the crew left to retrieve the flight recording. And when Amanda tries to disengage the androids, the system rejects it due to the Special Order 939. Which was put in place by Weyland to protect the specimen at all costs, and to disallow communications throughout the station. This means that everyone on board has been sentenced to die. Weyland has quite the reputation for loving the Xenomorph. In the original film, Ash, the synthetic science officer, was actively trying to preserve the creature and bring it back for examination. They didn't go to LV-426 simply because of a distress signal. No, the company knew what was on that ship the entire time. The mission was always to secure the creature. The entire crew of the Nostromo was seen as expendable. But of course, Weyland's mission failed, and Ripley managed to survive and get rid of the Xenomorph before the company could get their grubby little hands on it. And now that Ripley knows that she's being seen as this expendable asset, she does everything in her power to stop them, even if it means going to the heart of it all. After telling Apollo that the Xenomorph is no longer on the station, the AI rejects her once more, and tells her that the scheduled reactor scans are unverified. This then prompts Amanda to go directly to the reactor core to find out what's going on. And before I say anything else, I just gotta say, the reactor core is one of the coolest rooms in the entire game. It's honestly probably the coolest. Remember that Xenomorph she ejected into the gas giant? Well, that was only the beginning. Because soon after arriving at the core, Ripley steps right into their nest. Genuinely, this is one of the most shit-your-pants moments in the entire game. Up until this point, the Xenomorph has obviously been absent from the station, which definitely made the story feel a bit slow and bloated at times. The only threat within the missions were other humans and the rogue androids, which I do love, but I love the Xenomorph much more. And when we enter the nest, it honestly feels refreshing, but terrifying at the same time. Everything about this section is horrific. Ripley walks through this wet, organic, and claustrophobic nightmare, decorated with death. Bodies of the Xenomorph's original victims are cocooned along the walls, some with their chests completely split open. We've awoken the hive. Eggs surround each room and open whenever we get too close, releasing face huggers that we immediately torch. Ripley is now in the Xenomorph's territory, like a fly caught in a web. Ripley's main goal is to initiate a reactor purge to flush out the hive by overloading the cores. While moving through the nest, Ripley has to avoid the Xenomorph once again, and this entire section is incredibly nerve-wracking, because it's been 3 long missions since Ripley has had to come face to face with the creature. And trust me, this isn't the last time we'll be seeing it, because after activating the purge and destroying the nest, all hell breaks loose. What Ripley essentially did was she took a fly swatter to a wasp nest, and they all flew out. Multiple xenomorphs escaped the explosion and managed to flee into the station. There are now multiple creatures within Sevastopol, which isn't good, I'll tell you that. But the one good thing to come out of this purge is that multiple systems around Sevastopol have begun to work again, which means there's a possibility both Amanda and Ricardo can get the communications up and running. But before they can do that, Ripley must find a working shuttle. With Ricardo acting as her eyes and ears, Ripley moves through the station. He locks doors behind her and helps her with security. He also informs her that Marlowe already took one of the shuttles to the Anisadora, and Ripley follows closely behind. Marlowe and Taylor are both alive, and before the android slaughtered everyone in the office, the two of them struck a deal.
Leave Ripley out of this. She's just looking for closure. I'm looking after Weyland-Yutani interests.
And I'm looking to get out of the cell. Maybe we can do a deal.
Maybe. This is being recorded. You understand?
I saw. Red lights on.
I want data. The location of the planetoid where you found the derelict. All data you have on the origin of that organism.
I can give you that. And a way off this station. You just have to let me out.
I can probably agree to those terms. What the
Taylor! Taylor, get me out of this cell right now! Get me out!
This transaction led both of them to the Anisadora, and the ship is pretty much completely in the dark. It's silent, almost as if it's asleep. And Ripley spends some time getting it up and running, with the hopes of possibly using it to escape Sevastopol. But Marlowe seems to have plans of his own.
I tried to save Foster, brought it to Sevastopol, broke all the rules getting her ashore. That was stupid of me. Stupid. You don't beat this thing, Ripley. You can't. All you can do is refuse to engage. You gotta wipe out every trace, destroy any clue, stop its infection from spreading, make sure there's no chance of the human race ever making contact with it again. Because the moment it makes contact, it's won. The company's never gonna know what happened here. Nobody is. I won't allow it.
Marlowe has just given up on escaping altogether. All he wants to do now is make sure the creature never makes contact with the human race ever again. And once Ripley gets to the power core of the ship, she finds a terminal containing what she's been looking for all this time, the flight recording, and a personal message from her mother.
Added report. Personal message. This is for my daughter. Hi, Amanda. I'm recording this for you, my sweetheart, and I hope you get to hear it one day. You see, I got into trouble. My ship, there was an accident, sweetheart, and we found an alien creature. It was very dangerous, and the only way we could stop it was to destroy the ship. I'm okay. I'm stuck on this lifeboat, long way out. But we had to destroy the ship. We had to destroy the Nostromo. We just couldn't risk bringing that thing home with us. I needed to protect you. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. I'm sure I'll see you very soon. I love you, sweetheart.
As soon as the message ends, Marlowe holds Taylor at gunpoint from beyond the glass, and he begins to overload the reactor, turning the Anisadora into a mini nuke. He tells Ripley that this is what her mother would have done, and if she were here, she would be helping him. He knows how dangerous it is for the corporate suits to have the location of the derelict. No one is allowed to have that power. While Marlowe shouts at Ripley, Taylor sneaks up behind him and knocks him out with a wrench, but it's too late. Marlowe forced an overload.
Something's happening. I don't understand. Primary systems collapse. Total system-wide cascade failure.
Marlowe forced an overload. The ship's gonna tear itself apart.
Warning. Critical collapse.
things have gone from terrible to catastrophic. The blast from the Anesidora knocked out the orbital stabilizers, and it won't be long until Sevastopol crashes into the gas giant below. The only way off the station is the way she came. They must find a way to contact the Torrens.
Hello, Sevastopol. Can you respond? We just saw a ship blow on your starboard side, took out an entire orbital stabilizer array. We have no place to dock. Please, tell us what's going on in there. We can take survivors. I'll leave this channel open. Torrens out.
For the rest of the story, both Amanda and Ricardo try to contact and board the Torrens to escape, all while Sevastopol slowly descends towards the gas giant. As soon as Ripley makes it back from the Anesidora, Verlaine, the captain of the Torrens, leaves a broadcast message for the station, and she offers to take in survivors. But Amanda and Ricardo are not the only ones that heard the message. No. Seegson Security plans on contacting the Torrens and possibly taking it by force. The last few missions are some of the most intense within the game. Ever since the reactor purge, the Xenomorphs are back on the station, and just as aggressive as before. Only this time, it's not just one of them. Along with the creatures, Amanda has to dodge both synthetics and security. And since security wants the Torrens for themselves, it leaves Amanda with no other option. She must contact the ship before they do. And in order to do that, she needs to find a way to bypass the Apollo systems by manually putting in the coordinates of the Torrens and realigning the comms array. Ripley puts on the EVA suit and manages to reestablish communications with Verlaine.
Torrens, this is Ripley on the station. Are you reading me, Verlaine?
Ripley, what the hell is going on over there?
Bad things, Torrens. There's an alien organism here. It's deadly. We need urgent extraction.
A what?
There's no time to explain. Please, Verlaine.
There's nowhere for us to dock, Ripley. The station's tearing free from its gravity mooring. I've seen a towing platform below the spaceflight terminal, but the Torrens umbilical isn't built for it. You'll need to extend the tow platform clamp station side.
Just get into position.
The Torrens is unable to dock because of the rapidly declining stabilizers. The only way Ripley can safely board the ship is by extending the towing platform and engaging the docking clamps, which just so happen to be in a completely different part of the station. After getting back from the spacewalk, Sevastopol has only plunged deeper into hell. The Xenomorph is hunting every single person left on the station. And when Ripley makes her way back to Ricardo, she finds him slumped in a chair with a facehugger latched to his head.
Ricardo? Oh God. Ricardo. Oh no.
Ripley is now completely alone. She has no one to rely on but herself to make it off the station. But just like her mother, she's a survivor, and she's going to survive. She has to. To make it to the towing platform means to push through the belly of the beast. The objective stays exactly the same, but the obstacles just get more and more intense. The stakes have never been higher. The adrenaline rushes through Amanda's veins as she enters the home stretch. The station is suffering an excruciating death, and by the time Ripley finds an EVA suit to go on her final spacewalk, it's too late. Ripley wakes up in another nest and is fully enveloped in a cocoon. But before she can be implanted by a facehugger, she manages to escape. And just like before, she keeps moving. She has to get to that docking platform no matter what. Her time is dwindling. It's now or never. With the flamethrower in hand, she pushes through the nest, torching any facehugger that emerges. She puts everything on the line to get back to the airlock. And as she stumbles through the inferno, she survives just long enough to put on the EVA suit and cross over the finish line. The Torrens is right within her reach. All she has left to do is release the docking clamps, and then she's free. Moments before Sevastopol crashes into the gas giant, Ripley is propelled into the Torrens. She has finally escaped the nightmare of the station. She can finally go home. If only that were the case. Because right as she enters the Torrens, it's strangely quiet. And as we walk through the very halls we explored in the beginning of the game, something feels off. Ripley's unconscious body is left floating in space. And the last thing we see before it fades to black are searchlights gliding across her visor. Alien Isolation is genuinely one of the greatest horror games ever made, and it's such an endearing love letter to the franchise, especially the first film. I've never played a game that evokes as much dread as this one. There isn't a single moment within the story where you feel safe or at ease. No, it's a roller coaster. It thrives off of anticipation and is unapologetic about being brutal to us. Isolation makes us feel like a desperate survivor doing anything they can to escape. Although the game is a classic, that doesn't mean it's perfect. My only real complaint with the game is that certain missions and sections drag a little towards the later half of the story, specifically after the first Xenomorph dies. Which, speaking of the Xenomorph, my god, is that one of the best stalkers in any horror game ever. I genuinely have no idea how someone had the audacity to give this game a 5.9 out of 10. That's actually insane.